Mike Lawler. I'm the head football coach of Stillman Valley High School in Stillman Valley, Illinois. I'd first like to say thank you for purchasing this DVD. I hope that you'll find the information and the drills on this DVD helpful and useful to you in your program. My goal in creating these DVDs was to try to provide a tremendous amount of information at a very affordable price. This DVD is a combination of running back and wide receiver drills. As we went through our practices and analyzed our drills, we've realized in the past that so many of our drills carry over between these two positions, and we felt that we could put both of these positions together on one individual DVD. We're going to go through and show you the different types of drills that we do for both of these different positions in this particular order. We're going to cover some of our speed ladder drills, some of the ball drills that we do, some of our catching drills that we do, our strip ball, our route running, our stalk block progression for our wide receivers, some of the things that we do to teach the handoff, some agile bag drills, some running back specific drills that we do, some of the running back blocking drills that we do, and then what we go to do as far as trying to teach our plays to our running backs as well. So a lot of these drills we feel that you can use for either running backs or receivers, and then we do have a handful of drills for each particular position individually that you can use for these two positions as well. The first thing we want to look at here again is the speed ladder drills, and we've really become a big fan of the speed ladder. We feel it's very safe and very effective to teach good footwork and quicker footwork in particular. Year to year we've not been blessed with great God-given speed, but we do feel that we can make our kids considerably quicker, which in essence in the end it gives the illusion of maybe a team being a little bit faster than what it is. There's 101 of these drills that you can do, and here's just a handful of the ones that we do with the speed ladder. The first one that we use is we just simply call it a quick step, and what we're going to do is we're going to lay the speed ladders you're going to see here momentarily on the video down on the ground, and we're going to bring our players through the speed ladder, popping their feet. Drill that we do with the speed ladder is what we call our crossover step, and what we're going to do with our crossover step very simply is this: the left foot will go over to the right side of the ladder, the right foot will go on the left side, so they'll be swiveling their hips back and forth as they go through the ladder. The teaching point in this is that we want to keep the midsection of our body directly over the middle of the ladder. This teaches tremendous balance. As the lower body is turning, the upper body needs to be able to stay stationary and under control. This is also an excellent pre-practice warm-up drill for your running backs and receivers to loosen the hips up and not have the problems with pulling hip flexors and so on. This is one of the favorite drills that we do for teaching a little athleticism. As you see, they'll go through. Feet are popping into the opposite sides while the midpoint is trying to remain directly over the middle of the ladder. You'll see some of the players a little bit more wobble to their body as they go over, and others are able to maintain a very, very stationary position as they go over the top of the bags. The next drill that we do is we teach we call it ski quick hop, and the realities with these positions, besides for running and so on, oftentimes quick little hops are needed to avoid contact, avoid tackling and so on. And so we'll go through the ladder here and just what more or less like a mogul ski hill run, hopping back and forth, hitting all of the blocks. Now we'll do this with both feet, right foot, left foot, and I believe we just show you the right foot as we go through the tape here. All of these drills will make sure that we go both ways so that different feet are leading, your two different feet are leading each time through. We also feel this particular drill is an outstanding drill to build up ankle strength, and it's one of the problems I think every program has at times. So when your skill positions turn ankles, we do this a lot in the off season, obviously in season, puts a considerable amount of torque on the ankle as they go through, but as they do this more and more, their ankle strength, I believe, builds up, and we've had very, very few ankle sprains because of this. But again, they're going to go back and forth, pop them as quickly as possible while maintaining balance and stability as they go through the ladder. Last drills here that we'll go over with the speed ladder is what we call our front back drill, and they're going to face the edge of the ladder facing the bleacher section that we're filming from, and they're going to step into the ladder and then step back out to simulate the quick start and stop types of things that you'll have to do as a running back or receiver. I think it's important, obviously, that you're able to train them to get their momentum going one way and shift it back very quickly. What this does is it just takes out a lot of those steps, and what we're just doing here is the last portion, the start and then the restop and the backup as well. So as you'll see here momentarily in the tape, they'll line up, pop their feet into the bag or into the speed ladder very quickly, and then pop back out and do this repeatedly as they go up and down the ladder. What I like about the ladder is you're able to get a specific movement over and over rapidly and get a lot of repetitions very quickly. And again, with a side step and front step and so on, this is kind of a combination drill where you're combining some of those different movements and just trying to get the body function to just go a little bit faster. Now, some of the ball drills that we're going to do will seem somewhat simplistic, but I think that they are key when teaching receivers, and sometimes I think you just overlook the simple things that you can do in your practices that are really key to creating good players. And one of the things that we do here at Stillman that I know a lot of places don't do a lot is in our pre-practice. Very simply, we do a lot of just playing catch, and what we find is that so many of these kids nowadays, at least in our area, they just simply don't play the game much in the backyard and so on. So we make sure that we always have a tremendous amount of balls and so on, and just have the kids have a time period where they simply play catch and make sure that they're getting as many repetitions as they possibly can, versus just doing drills within your practice time. We develop or determine a certain amount of practice time each day to just simply catching the ball, having them throwing it all over the place, and just getting multiple repetitions. And it's amazing how far they come in their 4 years just from playing some catch during practice. Now, the next drill that we do, and again, some of these may seem somewhat simplistic, but I think you have to do them, because I think oftentimes we're all looking for that one magical, very complicated drill to solve all our problems, and that's just not the case. But one of the next drills that we do is every day is we do some one-handed type catching with our players, and we put them in different positions and so on, sometimes down on their knees, on a knee, slightly twisted, that type of stuff, but just simply having them catch with the one hand. For this particular film, we just have them partnered up about 5 yards apart. The key point that we always try to emphasize with the one-handed catching is not just to sit there and try to play catch one hand, but to emphasize the spreading of the fingers, and then also going ahead and making sure that they try to tuck the ball in as they are catching the ball. So the spread of the fingers, and then trying to look the ball into a tuck, try to simulate different types of things that we'd actually do in a game type situation when throwing the ball. The next drill that we do we call our triangle drill, and the point of this drill is to try to teach our players to catch the ball away from their body. And what we're going to do in this particular drill is have our players lock their arms out and form, in essence, a triangle in front of themselves with their index finger and their thumbs forming a triangle in front. And we're going to ask the other player to throw the ball about as hard as they can, although we'll gradually build up to that. And what we're trying to do then with our receivers, without breaking our arms or just minimally breaking our arms, or our elbows I should say, we want to catch the ball out away from the body, secure the ball with both hands, and then work it to the tuck. And we think it's a good drill to try to teach, again, catch the ball with your hands and not your body. So you see them locked away, and again, trying not to bend their arms very much. Watch the young man in the bottom left-hand corner as he does a real nice job with it here. Arms are locked out, ball comes in, the catch, the lock it, and then the tuck it in. And overall, I think we do a pretty nice job of teaching them to catch the ball away from your body. Next drill that we do we call our turn drill, and we find that this drill I think is somewhat effective just teaching a little reaction and hand-eye coordination, along with, for whatever reason, I think the players find this one to be a lot of fun. And I think you always got to try to find in your practice time a drill or so during the practice that's just kind of fun, even maybe sometimes you may not feel it's the 100% most effective drill, but it kind of keeps the players enjoying practice. And I think there's a fine line between doing that too much, though, as well. Back to the drill. The turn drill, very simply, a player will have a back to the other player. The player that's throwing the ball will throw it, and as he's throwing it, or just prior to throwing it, will yell out the name. As soon as the receiver hears his name being yelled, he spins around, picks the ball up, and makes the catch. And what we try to do again is, as the year starts, is we'll throw the ball and call the name prior to throwing it. As the year goes on, we'll get very close to release point before the yell the name, and then as year goes on further, if the ball is actually in the air, then we call the name out to cut down the reaction time. And we'll do this right and left hand as well, both hands, right and left hand catching as well. And the challenge is how close can you get the ball to the receiver before you're calling the names out. And again, they just have a lot of fun with this one because it is quite a challenge. Another drill that we do, and this one's more pre-practice type stuff, is we always do what we call low ball or bad ball drill. And I think there's a real danger sometimes when you're playing catch or doing drills that you're always throwing the ball correctly, that you're never throwing the ball off target where it's difficult to catch and so on. And I think receivers and running backs both, they need to learn how to catch the ball, by scooping, by putting their pinkies together and dropping their hips down and dropping their knees and so on, or going up for the high ball, going to the ball to the left or the right of them, versus always catching the ball right directly at the chest. So we make sure that we always work in we call it just a low ball, bad ball type drill, where we're going ahead and make sure that we're throwing the ball and not throwing it ideally, and players are getting used to having to, again, shuffle their body, move their body, bend the knees and so on to catch the ball, versus just having the perfect catch every time. So again, you just see them there. They'll throw the ball down around the hips, down around the knees and so on, up over the shoulders and so on. Those types of things, off to the side, left or right. And again, just trying to make sure that they are getting as many different looks catching the ball as well. But again, one of the real high emphasis that we obviously put on receiver play that I think sometimes gets forgotten is just simply catching the football. Speed and having great moves and all those types of things are great, but if you can't catch the ball, it really doesn't do you a lot of good. And one of the things that we show here, this is our freshman practice, one of our first days of practice, and we always like to clip our freshmen the first couple days of practice and then show them to them again when they're seniors. You can see down there some average talent, and you can see them, they're working on a little over the shoulder type stuff here in one hand, and you can see the amount of times they're dropping here. And I threw this in here for this reason. We'll show this tape here again in 4 years and watch them do some drills, and how often they don't drop the ball, and the improvement that they've made just simply from going through all sorts of repetitions. Now, one of the next drills that we do with our receivers, and throw a little movement again, may seem simplistic at first, but I think it's key that you do some sort of drill like this, is a over-the-shoulder type drill. In this particular drill, we just simply got them lined up in lines, running them down the field on like a streak type of route, and then we're throwing the ball up over their shoulder as they're looking the ball in. And what our coaching point for us is on this is we like to have the palms up facing the sky as you catch. And the reason that we believe strongly in this is that we think if you turn the hands the other way, and what often happens is the backside arm gets up in front of your face. If you keep the palms up, you have a better straight contact with your eyes to the ball. There's no interference by yourself. And so we're looking to get the palms turned up, and we watch this very carefully as we're teaching them, versus crossing over their hands in front of their face to catch the ball. And then the same drill, what we will do in time as they make their way up and down the field, of course, we'll add in just catching with the one hand. In this particular, on this side of the field, be just with the right hand. If we flipped it the other side, going down the other way, would be the left hand. And normally what we would do is have a quarterback on the other side there, running the receivers right back to the quarterback that is throwing the ball. So we can get a tremendous amount of repetitions in very quickly. And the same deal here, the little things we're looking for, palms up, and also again spreading the fingers as the ball is coming in, making the hands as big and as wide as possible. Next drill that we do, because of the amount of hitch routes and crossing routes that we like to run here in Stillman, is we do a crossing type of drill. And I think it's important that, again, the receivers learn how to change their hand positioning as they're coming across the field. So we'll run them in a straight line across the field and just simply throw the ball out in front of them and they'll bring it in. We'll also work out some one-handed types of things, drills as well with this particular drill. And what we're looking for here again is having the hands in the proper place. If the ball is low, get the hands down and scoop it up. If the ball is high, you have to go on up and obviously get the ball forming the triangle up in the air. And also the next thing is we teach this drill that we're looking for here is just the ability to not be afraid of the ball, which I think is such a simple thing, but at our lower levels is so key. we believe strongly, as you see here, is running them down a line. And what we find very quickly, it's a great talent evaluator as well. Kids that can stay on their line and don't work their way upfield and shy away from the ball are going to be your better receivers initially. And I think it's also a great teaching tool to be able to teach these kids to get better and so on, is to stay as close to that quarterback as you can. The more you drift away, the easier the drill becomes, obviously. And at the end of the drill here, the other thing that we're, of course, always going to try to emphasize and try to do, catch, tuck, and work your way up the field after you hopefully make the grab and so on. And obviously, again, as you're going across this particular drill, left hand eventually, we'll just work with our one hand coming across, spreading the fingers, looking the ball in, tucking, and then working up the field. Next drill is one of my favorite drills to do as far as receiver play is concerned. We call it what we just call a distraction drill. What we will do is we will line up about half the kids in a line on the line that you just saw there, the yard line that you just saw, and the other half of the kids will be the receivers, running the same type of crossing drill that they just did. However, the first group of kids will line up on the line, a foot or so apart, and then they'll spread their arms up in there and kind of wave their arms around. The other receiver will run behind, as you'll see momentarily on the drill, run behind the group of people that are doing the distracting, and our quarterback will throw the ball between the first group of people that are trying to, again, provide some sort of distraction. Receiver, again, needs to be able to look the ball in while having people in front of them and make the catch and tuck the ball and make their way upfield. So as you see, we got a group of people on the line. Hands are up and so on, and the key is to obviously make sure that you come as close to the ball as you can, but then don't knock the thing down on accident. And the receivers, again, will make their way behind these groups of people, make the grab, concentrate and focus in, and make the grab and turn upfield. As you see here, you'll see some people drifting away from the distractors. You want to try to keep them as close and as tight as possible. A good thing to add in there would just simply be a cone or so to keep them tighter to the other side. The next drill that we're going to go over is what we call catch and cover. And one of the problems that we've had in the past, and I'm sure everybody has it time to time, is the ability the receivers have to catch the ball, but then as soon as contact is made, the ball ends up on the ground. And so what we do is we work what we call a catch and cover drill, where the receiver is going to come across the field, make a grab, and you can run any type of route or any type of system that you want here, and then tuck, turn it upfield, and then we'll have some people standing there with bags making contact then with the receiver as they make their way upfield. Initially, what we like to do is we like to have a lot of space in between the catch and then where the contact is made, because we find if we make it too much of a bang-bang situation, we don't catch the ball. We develop a lot of bad habits. So as you can see here, we've got about a 5-yard spacing in between where we're actually going to catch the ball and then where the contact is going to be made as they come across, make the catch, turn upfield, and then make contact. But as the year goes on, or as the skill level increases, as we go up the levels in our program, we'll try to cut that yardage down to, say, a yard, or almost making it to the point where as we're catching, we're getting contact. But I think you got to wane a little bit before you do that. The next drill that we do here then is a strip ball drill, and we think it's important for both our running backs and our receivers to go through a type of drill like this, and it's actually a very good defensive drill as well, so you're kind of getting things out of both sides of this drill. There's all sorts of different types of strip ball and protection drills that you can do, and I've seen a lot of people do gauntlet drills and things like that, and we do those things as well. We don't always find that we get a lot out of those drills, so one that we've gone to the last couple of years is just a one-on-one type situation. You have a defensive player and then the receiver, the running back. Defensive player will put one hand on a shoulder or part of the jersey to kind of simulate being tackled, and then with the other hand he'll be ripping and punching at the ball to try to pop it out, while the receiver is asked to hold the ball high and tight with just the one hand ideally. So again, you'll see the offensive player in the front there, both of them get the ball popped out of their hands. The player in the back's done a nice job there. And then you go back the other way with the opposite person. Again, hand on the back, work your way up the field, punch, rip out, and so on. And we just think it gives a little bit more of a realistic view than what some of the gauntlet type drills do. And the players seem to like it a little bit more. It's a little more of an individual type of competition situation here. And so we've had pretty good success with that particular drill. Now with our running backs and our receivers, when they are, and I'm talking about a running back that will split out or something along those lines, every day we also do what we call a takeoff drill. And with crowd noise and so on, and we're speaking more at the high school level, we sometimes have troubles with our split ends and their takeoffs and stuff. And so we always make sure that we work a simple takeoff drill. And this will coincide with our one of our next segments when we start talking about the routes. We think it is key that your takeoff from your split end position is consistent. We will always start our receivers with their outside foot back, and it times up with our steps that we use on our routes and so on. And what we're looking for in this drill, this is something we'll do for all of 1 or 2 minutes in a practice at most, is we're making sure that we have no false steps by our receivers, that we're not shuffling our feet, we're not stepping with the wrong foot, that we're always making sure that we get off the ball the same in the exact way. So again, here you'll see us, outside foot is back, quarterback simulates the snap of the ball as we are watching that, and then the outside foot will step first. And I think you can take off however you want to take off, but I think it does need to be consistent. You see that young man there had the feet wrong, they asked him to switch it back and so on. And I think it's just key that you work on these real little things for the timing, which is so critical in the passing game. Now, teaching some of the routes we run, I'll just give you a handful of the routes that we run because I think these are fairly standard routes, some of the things that we're looking to do with how we teach them and get them timed up. And it's all a 3-step progression, but these are routes that I think you can run at any level, youth, high school, and of course college and pros run these. The first that we run, of course, is the slant route, and we run a 3-step slant to try to time it up with a 3-step drop with our outside foot back. That of course will be our lead step, and we'll have step 2 and 3, and then on the third step that will be again with our outside foot. That's our plant step that we use to plant and then break to the inside portion of the field. And on the third step, the ball from the quarterback really should be coming out at that point. You'll probably get about 2 to 3 more steps in before the ball gets there at best, and becomes a very quick and a very effective route for us. So again, you see him walking through there, 1, 2, 3, and then up the field, and this thing should hit somewhere between about 5 to 7 yards or so, depending on your receiver. If you got a little taller, a little lankier receiver, you might end up in anywhere from about that 7 to 10 range as well before the ball gets in there. But we can get pretty good consistency on the timing of when the ball is coming out. And then the actual placement of the ball, we're hopefully again pretty consistently right around that 7 to 8 yard range there with our quarterbacks. Very quick hitter, and I think it puts a lot of stress on a defensive team as well to get that thing covered if you run it right. See just a little game footage split up at the top part of the screen there. See the 1, 2, 3. And then the slant and go very quickly. So again, put it in, fairly tight coverage there as a whole. We're able to put the ball in very quickly and effectively. Our next route then is the out route, and we run our out route just a little bit different. We're going to again go off a 3-step drop and so on, and run our receivers a little bit more upfield than a square out. And what we're trying to do here is catch the ball in stride, and then of course make our way back up the field. Again, we run this a little bit different than the standard traditional square out, but as you'll see, I think you'll might like the way that we do things as far as being able to continue momentum and to continue to gain leverage up the field. Where the square out, I think oftentimes you give that defense a little bit of an advantage, being able to break hard on you and then reestablishing your momentum up the field. So as you watch them walk through it on the third step, we begin to bend the thing out, and we gradually continue to work our way upfield. This also allows us to get to the out quicker, as we don't have to slow our momentum down to plant, stop, and cut on a direct square out. And again, you can see the receivers, everybody just a little bit different, but we really like to be able to bend that thing up the field, catch that thing at about 7 to 9 yards, and continue to make our way up the field in a turn nice and easy. As you'll see at the top part of the screen here then, you'll see the receiver running the square, or actually, I should say, the rounded out, if you will, catching the ball and making their way on up the field, making a nice play. Next route that we run, probably our favorite route, just the simple hitch route. We have 2 different ways to call it. We call one of ours a hitch, one of our curl. We'll get to that here in a second. Our hitch is a 5-step hitch. We're going to drive the defender up the field, and at 5 steps plant that outside foot and break ourselves back to the quarterback under control. By breaking back, we're just simply under control and maybe work our way back one step as we come back to meet the ball. But again, what we're trying to do is kind of combine the hitch and the fade route into a tough combination to defend. With the fade, we're going to make our way up the field and obviously try to get past the defender. Once we've kind of set them up with that, then we, of course, will break the route back underneath. Or for that matter, we've started off with a hitch. They're starting to close very quickly. Then we'll bring the fade on back. But this route ends up, again, about that same 7 to 8 yard range here. Very quick. The quarterback's getting the ball out on his third step as well. So as long as you have any sort of cushion with your defensive back, it's a very, very tough route to defend and a nice solid pickup for you. If you can get any yardage after the catch, it's all the better. But again, it's a stationary target for your quarterback, which makes it an easier throw for him. A simple route to run for your receiver, as long as you push off hard. The key teaching point that we are teaching in this is you got to make it look like the fade as you're coming off. So sell it out hard and then plant and stop hard, which of course that oftentimes can happen as you have to plant, cut, and stop very, very hard and quickly. Sometimes the footing can go for you. Here's a real nice look at it though during one of our games. Top part of the screen there. Got a little bit of a cushion by the corner. Quick stop, get the ball out. Ends up being, again, about a 10-yard pickup there, but about 7 on the reception. Now what we do with our other route is we run a deep curl, and this is more of a read type of route for us. And what we're looking to do is to make our way up the field. And this is when we don't have a clear read whether or not the cornerback is playing off soft or going to be coming up hard. And so what we do is we push hard as if we do with the fade. And once the corner's hips turn to make his way up the field, either way, turning them inside or turning them out, we will then stop and curl ourselves to the outside and throw the ball to the outside portion of the field. But again, it's a read type of route. It's been a very, very effective route for us over the years. When we have a corner that's kind of playing games with us and we can't read whether to throw the hitch or to throw the fade, this gives us kind of that in-between type route. We'll end up anywhere from about 10 to 15 yards on this particular route. So again, as you watch here, the receivers walking through the route here. They're going to push their way upfield, lock down. As soon as that defensive back flips those hips open, we're going to curl the thing back to the outside. We like the outside because we think it's a safer throw. It takes away that chance of the defensive back as soon as they open the hip, plan and coming on up and picking it off on the inside part. So we really like the outside curl on this particular route there. And again, this thing will usually end up right between about that 10 to 15 range, oftentimes right about 12 yards. And we run it against all different types of coverages. We can run this thing against man coverage as well if we feel like we have pretty good personnel. You can see at the bottom part of the screen here we got man. I'm going to drive off, and on the man coverage, again, the hips turn to go upfield. We break it off, throw it to the outside part of the field, and we're in good shape for a real nice pickup there. Our corner right now, we'll show you from the split end, but we also run this awful lot from our tight end position as well. We run just both a little bit different. From the split end, we're going to make it look just like the slant route, where we're going to go 3 steps upfield, 1 to 3 back to the inside, and that's depending on how quick our split end is, and then we'll break it back to the corner. And what we find is this is a nice combination route with our slant route, and we oftentimes either get one or two things. We get the completion or we get an interference call as the defensive back collides with us because we're sitting on the slant route. From the tight end position, we're going to work our way upfield about 7 yards and then sharply break it to the corner from there. We love to run this against the cover 2. It's kind of a short corner route for our tight end versus some of the deeper stuff that people run from time to time. And it's been a real good route for us. So again, you can see him walking through it there, 3 steps up, 1 to 3 back, and again, that's all based on speed. If you got a real slow receiver out there, you probably only going to go about 1, like we have right there, a bigger receiver, but a little bit slower, and then we break it back to the corner. If you've got a real quick kid, if you can get the more steps on the slant, you really sell that better to the corner, but at the same time, you got to be able to get that ball out of there fairly quickly, so we do have a little bit of flexibility built in to our corner route, depending on which player is running it. I'll show it to you from the tight end. We've been showing all split end stuff, but here's the tight end look here at the bottom part of the screen. About 7, 8 yards there, bend it quickly to the corner. It again becomes about a mid-sized type of route for you. The last one that we run an awful lot is our fade route, which goes back to some of the earlier drills that we were showing with the over the shoulder and so on, and why we do those drills in practice. On the fade, again, we're trying to make the initial steps look the same as the hitch route. Now, again, we go back and forth between running the fade and then running the hitch route and setting people up. At the fade, we're going to end up about 18 to 22 yards. On the third step, the quarterback's going to throw it. We often start off with our receiver fairly close, within about 3 yards of the hash mark. We found is a good landmark. Get much wider than that, you run out of space as you fade yourself to the sideline. We're going to try to end up about 4 to 5 yards from the sideline at most. We want to have just enough room that we have a little bit of room there to adjust if we need to fade out further to make the catch. But at the same time, we don't want to be so close to the sideline that we run ourselves out of bounds there, as we just did on that initial walkthrough there. So again, within about 2 to 3 of the hash mark, then we work our way to the sideline, be within about 3 of the sideline, and bring it in from there. And again, this is a nice combination route. And if our quarterback throws the ball decently, one of two things is going to happen. We're going to make the catch, or the ball is going to end up out of bounds, incomplete, which again we can live with. If we don't want to leave the ball short to the inside. Top part of the screen there into the corner, a little bit dark into the corner there. But you see a pretty good look at it there over to the sideline. The next progression drills that we want to go into is how we teach our stalk block, and this is one of the questions I've been asked many times at different clinics I've spoke on it and so on, is how do you teach your receivers to block? And it seems to be a very, very difficult task, because oftentimes, at least we found, is some of your receivers are not the most physical players in the world, so sometimes it's a challenge to get them to be good blockers on the perimeter. But if you can do that, you're in great shape. First drill that we're going to do is we're going to teach the footwork and how to keep a good base and so on. We just call this a mirror drill. Set a couple cones up about 5 yards apart or so, and with a good base, sinking the hips down, hands out in front, we will partner them up with a defender. The defender will run back and forth between the two cones, and then the offensive player will, of course, do what we call mirror. You'll see number 12 here. Feet are apart, sitting down, a pretty good stance there, hips are down. Want to keep the feet apart and not cross them over as we work back and forth here. And then on the command, the defender will work his way back and forth, and we want to try to keep our body in front. You can see at times on the edge there, the receiver got a little bit wide. And what we don't want here with 86 is having those hands out wide like that. I want to keep them up tight, just like we would in a game, because you waste time here. And this is one of the next steps that we'll get into, and we'll talk about this here just in a second, but it'll give you a little different variation to what we're doing there with the drill. And that gets into this very next drill that we're talking about at this point here. The next thing that we will do with the drill is we will phase it into what we call mirror and lock-on drill. We'll do the same basic concepts as the previous drill, where we will mirror the receiver, but then we add in what we call the lock-on part, where the receiver will extend his hands and lock onto the defensive backs are going back and forth. And the challenge that we find here with this particular drill is to keep our receiver in a good fundamental position. Far too often they'll want to slide out of their position and start leaning forward or off to the side. The knees will become unbent, and so by adding in the actual locking onto the block, we feel like we can get a lot of those things cleaned up fairly quickly. The receiver is to the right of your screen there, and again, keeping his feet wide and mirroring the defender as he works back and forth, while keeping his hands inside on the numbers. And another key is to try to keep that head back. Don't get that head tucked in there too much. The next thing that we'll do then is we will teach is the punch part of the whole progression. At some point within the block, usually after you've driven the corner off and then you have your initial contact, you are going to have a punch. You just simply can't lay your hands into the person. If you can get that little initial shot, you're in much better shape. I think the key with the punch is that you don't want to over punch. You go for that knockout shot way out on the perimeter, you end up missing, and the defensive back comes up with a clean shot on your running back and so on. So what we try to do is teach a real controlled punch, and then also teach where we want to punch here. And as you see here with the 6-point punch, we'll start somebody down at all 6 points, your feet, knees and hands, and then we'll punch into the defender from there. As you can see here, 31 punching into the defender. Got a little too much lean on that first one, but what we're looking for here, again, is a little body movement up field there, and then punch into the numbers. It gives them a great chance to get a lot of quick repetitions and get the aim points that you want. Now the next drill I really think is one of the big keys to being a successful stalk block team. We call this our approach and lock-on drill. And again, we'll do all of these drills every day in practice, and I think this will be the last one that you'd want to do. The other ones, kind of debatable which order you want to go in, but I think this is the last one that you want to do as a whole. And what we're looking here on the approach and lock on is we're going to put all these concepts together: punching, locking on, mirroring, and so on, but then also adding in the approach. And I think the key with the stalk is this: as the receiver drives the defender off the ball, the receiver should watch the defender's hips and legs, and when you see those hips and legs either drop or stop and plant, that's when you yourself want to break down as well. If he's willing to continue to backpedal 20 yards upfield, keep driving him off the ball. Don't break yourself down at 3 or 4 yards and tip the play off. But at the same time, you have to have a read key as to when are you going to stop in time so that you can set up and make the block yourself. So as you see here, you'll see them driving them off the ball. They'll read that back person's hips. Okay, as we drive off the ball here momentarily, you see the plant. That's when we want to break down. Add a little slip, a little stutter step there, but we're still able to get the body in front. But again, it does us no good to go 3 or 4 yards upfield and he's still backpedaling and then break ourselves down when we could have just driven them 20 yards upfield without actually ever touching them. At the same time, we can't fly up the field, have them stop and plan, and we continue to make our way upfield, and they more or less run right on past us, and we more or less get maybe an arm or a shoulder into them as well. So we use those hips, we use the plant as our aim point, and the thing that we are looking for as far as our trigger as to when we need to break down ourselves. And if I was going to do one drill to teach stalk block, I would probably do this drill, because those other things are great and I think awfully key to being a great stalk blocker, but if you don't know how to read that corner, then you're in a lot of trouble. The other thing that I think that you need to do is you need to, with scouting and so on, if you have the opportunity to, you need to be able to read how far and get a gauge on how far off the defenders are playing. This is one of our last practices of the year, and we were putting this film together, so we asked them to kind of slow things down here a little bit. The team we were facing, they had corners that were playing about 4 or 5 yards. They were playing kind of an off cover 2 look where they weren't funneling us out there, but they're only at about 4 or 5 yards, and so our receivers had a breakdown very, very quickly that week, and didn't really have a huge read key. The people were pretty flat-footed, weren't backpedaling, so you had to do things just a little bit different that particular week, and I think that's key, that you teach your people how to do those things as well. Pretty good look at it here at the top part of the screen. Receiver drives off, you got the breakdown, got the punch and ride him on out, maintaining pretty good contact, and then the running back makes the cut from that point. So a pretty good look as a whole on that part of the play. Now, as far as the running backs and so on, I think it all starts in many ways. Besides for the stance, and we don't get into stance here because I know everybody uses different types, whether it be 3-point or 2-point and so on. But the handoff pretty universal, and some of the simple things that we're looking for here in the handoff are the following. We're always looking for, again, to put that whatever hand is closest to the quarterback. That's how we talk about it. Arm and hand closest to the quarterback is the one that needs to be on the top side of the handoff. Obviously, your other hand will be on the bottom part of the thing. And that top hand, we always try to find little aim points and little things to help our kids. And what we tell them is use the lettering on your jersey right above your number, and try to make your arm as flat as that lettering if possible. And I think that's much harder said than done oftentimes, but we want to try to keep that elbow up and so on. And also with that top hand, okay, have them drop their thumb down, and that will rotate their elbow up naturally. If you're having trouble with that top elbow getting in the way, have them rotate that thumb down, which will pull that elbow up, and then roll over the ball. Bottom hand, we want a few inches away from our belly, or the bottom tip of the number is what we use. So we want to keep the numbers of the jerseys open. And then on the handoff, we want to go ahead and clamp down with both hands on the tips of the football. And we always talk about clearing linebackers and clearing that second level before either hand comes off the ball. And so our first couple days of practice, we'll literally teach it like this, where we have a quarterback of some sort, ideally, usually, the quarterback or a coach, and we just walk them right through the line. We can kind of watch them, walk them through, and we oftentimes will film it just like this here on the straight on film, so they kind of see themselves versus other people. Now the reality is in practice is that outside of maybe your first couple days, there'll come a point where you have to break things down a